Hello, this is a very brief discussion of how to approach the second unseen question. The key to success in this question is recognition of the very small number of marks that are available. It's 8 marks, therefore don't spend too much time on it. 10 minutes, 15 minutes at a push, that's about all you need. The task requires you to identify similarities and or differences between the ways poets present, and the key to the task is this one here. The question is all about the ways, and the word the ways means methods, it means words, it means punctuation, it means the way the poem's looked, it means anything at all that you think the poet has done on purpose. Let's get on with it. Jessie Emily Schofield. I used to wash my grandmother's hair when she was old and small, and walked with a frame like a learning child. She would turn off her hearing aid and bend into the water, holding the edge of the sink with long fingers. I would pour warm cupfuls over her skull and wonder what it could be like in her deaf head with 80 years of life. Hers was the softest hair I ever felt, wedding dress silk on a widow. But there is a photo of her sitting swathed in hair that I imagine chestnut from the black and white, long enough to sit on. Her wet head felt delicate as a bird's skull, worn thin by waves of age as she stood bent. My mother's mother under my hands. Now, before you actually get on with the methods, you do have to say, I think, what the attitudes are and how they are different in each poem. And this is in comparison to On Aging by Maya Angelou. In On Aging, Maya Angelou's, or the speaker's, attitude towards growing old is one of annoyance, acceptance, and how she still feels that she's the same person despite aging. We are not supposed to pity this person at all. By contrast, in Jessie Emily Schofield, we are encouraged to pity the aged grandmother and recognise just how her life has become a burden to herself and to that of her family as well. Having said that, we then move on to demonstrating the differences through the methods. And the key to success is identify similarities so you can tease out differences. So, both poems are in single stanzas. Why? Why have them have this sort of continuous stanza? What's the point of that? So there is a similarity, but then you can tease out the differences. So for instance, in On Aging, the continuous nature of the stanzas, I think arguably perhaps represents the nature of, continuous nature of life. This is a woman who's still living, she wants to continue living, so on and so forth. Whereas in Jessie Emily Schofield, I think we're supposed to see that there is no break, there's no let up. The act of giving care to an aging grandmother and an ailing grandmother is brutal because there is no respite, there's no rest. So that's one thing that we could potentially say. That's a structural point. I could talk about the rhyme scheme, or the near rhyme scheme in On Aging, as opposed to this one. Or I could focus on some of the words and phrases in On Aging and compare that to some of the words and phrases in Jessie Emily Schofield. In this instance, I might decide to say something about up here. When you see me sitting quietly, like a sack left on the shelf, don't think I need your chattering, I'm listening to myself. And over here, and I'm using a different coloured pen to mark out the differences between each individual question, I can reference the simile, what the simile implies about the speaker and the old person, and how being old creates the stereotype that you are a heavy burden who weighs other people down, left behind on the shelf while others go and enjoy their life. Because that then gives me the chance to contrast it to this poem over here, where we can see exactly how the older person is a burden, how they are a metaphorical sack, how they have been left on the shelf. And I want to find an example of that in this particular poem. And there are a few, really. We're told about how the adult, the older lady, has to walk with a frame like a learning child, and there's a regression to youth. We're told about how the caregiver has to do things on her grandmother's behalf. I would pour warm cupfuls over her skull. And I'm choosing this word skull because it then enables me to make the connection to how her wet head is as delicate as a bird's skull. Because the key difference here is that on ageing, we're supposed to see strength despite age, whereas in Jessie Emily Schofield, we're supposed to see the fragility of ageing. The methods help to prove that in terms of the structure of the poem, but you'll also see it in the language that is chosen. And that's about it. There are numerous other things that one could say about each poem, but I've only got 10, maximum 15 minutes to do it. Pick the best point. Pick the first thing you think of, articulate it carefully, and then you should be fine. But make sure that you write something, because you're going to get some marks if you write something, and you won't get any marks if you don't. Manage your time carefully, and good luck.